Hi, my name's Eric, and today we're going to show you around something a little different from the usual. This might be a little bit less exciting than riding jumps and gnarly trails, but I figured it was a good thing to show because it was kind of where I started when I started mountain biking in Sudbury, and that's the gravel paths around town. A lot of other trails are accessed via these trails, so I thought it'd be good to show, and we'll be putting up a map kind of everywhere that I go to try and show you where the entrances are, because they were hard to find when I started riding. And without further ado, let's get to it. We'll start with the trail that goes through the Nickel Conservation Area. So this is the new Sudbury Historic Trail. Kind of joins the neighborhoods right by Cambrian College all the way to the cemetery on the south. It's a nice easy ride, just like everything else. These are all gravel path trails. So very light mountain biking, I guess. More of a gravel bike kind of thing. These can be fun though, because you can fly down them. There's a lot of cool stuff that branches off of a lot of these trails as well. This one has a conservation area that has a bunch of trails that we'll be visiting in a later video. They're called Fingers, and the whole area is referred to as Nickel. These are obviously multi-use. Lots of people walking on here, and of course most of these trails have Strava segments on them, which can be kind of dangerous. If you fancy yourself a KOM on one of these trails, I guess the best time to do it is like really early in the morning. It's especially dangerous in spots like these where there's tall bushes and grass. You can't really see what's around the corner. And the worst thing that can happen is if there's a segment going both directions and two people collide with each other. Imagine if that happened. I actually did that in Timmins, trying to get a segment. Somebody else was just trying to get up a climb really fast after a descent. I managed to avoid him mostly, but his shoulder, I think his head caught my shoulder or something. We crashed. I was mostly okay, just like a bit of a bruise on my shoulder, and I don't think there's any damage to the bike. The other guy didn't fare so well. He had a few scratches. Still wasn't terrible considering the speeds we were going. And of course, I got back up, turned around, and tried again, and I missed the KOM by 1 second, and I'm not going back to try it again. So on the left here, there's a bunch of really cool trails. There's actually a pump track, which we'll show in the Nickel showcase. I believe most of these trails are usable in the winter as well. I don't think there's any grooming that happens, but there's just so much use that the trails stay kind of packed. So if you have a fat bike, you can also ride these. To our right here is a dam that you can actually walk/ride across, and that'll take you to the highway that turns into Notre Dame. We're gonna go by the cemetery though. So it is a long weekend, so there aren't as many people as there probably normally would be on the trail. Still gonna be careful though. Alright, so this takes you out onto LaSalle, and the cemetery is to our left. But we're gonna go right. So a common theme amongst these gravel trails is there's a lot of little offshoot trails that people have made to go to the yard, or in this case to the street. They're usually single track, so they're kind of rough. So there's a lot of ways to get on and off of these trails. This one's a pretty fun one if you're coming off. And where we're going now is little gravel trail that was made by, I guess, some students years ago from Sudbury. So now we're on the actual gravel path. I imagine at one point this was much smoother, but it's kind of a fall line trail, so water just runs straight down it. It erodes the gravel that is just placed here. That's a much steeper climb than you'll run into on most of these trails. So if you're like really new to mountain biking, maybe avoid this one for a bit. It's a little out of the way from most of the other stuff anyway. Here's some good little rock crawling bits, like this one here. Ugh. And there's a gazebo up here. That gets a pretty good view. Over there you can see the hill that the ski hill was built off of. There's a trail that runs by there that we'll go see in a bit. But for now we're gonna go somewhere else. And now coming from the gazebo, we go down to one of the entrances. And this is actually kind of gnarly. So if you're on a gravel bike, you're kind of on the limit at some points. Not that I would know, I don't own one of those. Everybody keeps telling me to get one and I keep showing up on this thing. This is kind of the back road that goes behind Boreal. We're gonna go up here because there's another little trail that takes you into the Donovan, right from the baseball fields behind Boreal. Or I guess it's beside Boreal. A little further up after you get to the top, just make a left here. I didn't mean to go off the path. The gravel beside that rock is more loose than I was expecting. Just around the baseball field, the trail begins. So this is called the Selkirk Trail. I'm just reading signs. I don't know what these are actually called. This one's pretty short. Takes you into the Donovan, right into, I don't know what the name of the park is. I'm sure there's a sign at the other end. But it's the park that has the nets for the disc golf. Which, I got a set of discs for that and I still haven't tried them. The first time I ever went there, we just went there while we were waiting for a table at a restaurant not far away. We had over an hour wait, so we were just putting around kind of thing. And we happened to have just a regular frisbee, which doesn't work very well for that. And we did the first couple of nets. Holes? Do you call them holes? It's like golf, but not really. And then when we got to, I don't know if it was the fifth one or what, they ended up more in the forest and we just got mauled by mosquitoes. So we took off. So might have to wait till the fall to try that one. And the park is just to my right now. There we are. Alright, so I just came down from the food basics on Notre Dame. Lots of traffic on this trail. This one kind of runs along Notre Dame a bit. Only going to be on it for a short bit to get up to the Adnac Trail. It's called the Rotary Park Trail. This is, I'm sure it has its own name. It's part of like the Rainbow Routes or something. If I were to keep going straight, it would take me right downtown. Which I don't always recommend going that way because there are definitely a lot of sketchy people. The type that use needles. I've never had any issues with anybody like causing anything, but still kind of an uncomfortable thing to see. At the very least, the place is pretty clean. There are bins everywhere for that kind of thing, because they know people are gonna ditch it otherwise. So whether they keep it clean themselves or somebody is in there keeping the place clean, it is nice, but you do see them there. We just go through this neighborhood a little bit and then we're onto the rotary trail. So there was a map back there. I don't think this place needs a map. It's kind of just a single trail with one offshoot that takes you to a lookout that's actually really cool. One side of it is a big metal set of staircases, and then the side that we're going to be passing by on this side is just a really steep gravel trail. Really good workout. This trail's pretty fun to go super fast on, but not going to do that today. It's very busy. Time to use the bell. Got it specifically for these trails. Oh my god, it works. I used to try and rely on like the noise of the bicycle, but bikes are surprisingly sneaky. That's a fun little thing to jump off of. That culvert keeps heaving up every year, so they keep building up dirt and I guess gravel. Soon it's going to be like a full-fledged jump. It already kind of is. So this is probably the busiest trail that I'm going to show. Just because it is actually a really good shortcut from downtown to the New Sudbury area. Specifically the New Sudbury Mall is not too far away from the exit of this one. I use this trail all the time on my commute when I ride to work. It kind of just cuts right through the middle of the city, which you can't do by car, because all the main routes are kind of on the outside over here, and then the Kingsway is on the other side. So you end up making kind of a staircase shape just to get across town. This cuts straight through it. This is also a very pretty trail. Most of these trails are really well maintained too. Things will get washed out, like the culvert that I pointed out was a jump earlier. That always gets washed out, and every year they build it back up. They try to fix it so that it doesn't happen again, but Mother Nature has other plans. It's always an awful smell. So to the right is the staircase that goes up to the lookout. We're approaching the ski hill now. And this part of the trail is pretty fun because it's kind of windy. Oh, it's a rabbit. That was close enough that you might actually see that on the video. So just behind me right now, right at the ski hill, there's like a little BMX track. It's I think it was originally made for BMX racing. It's kind of turned into more of a little dirt jump spot. It's not amazing because nobody maintains it and people kind of do whatever they want there, but there's some stuff that's fun. The track as a whole doesn't really flow very well anymore, if it ever did. And here's the exit. This takes you to the left. Here is, I think, Northern Ontario Film Studio. Alright, now we're flying into Moonlight Beach. So from here, once you get past the beach, the trail kind of starts. You stay left, you go through the volleyball courts and up the hill. And that's kind of where the trail normally goes. I'm going to take a bit of a shortcut That's probably actually more effort than it's worth, but it's a little bit more mountain biking. So again, here normally you'd stay left, and that's just like wide as a road. Takes you up to Camp Sudaka, but so does this. I think there's also a line to the right, up the rock. Whew. Can't see out of my right eye. That sun was bright. So I think Camp Sudaka is like a kid's summer camp kind of thing. And I guess they made these trails for that. But it doesn't look like this little part of it has really been maintained too much. It looks like there used to be a loop, but now it's just like the single trail. And the loop eventually dead ends. Oh, they got a new paint job on the wall. I haven't been here in a bit. So if you're out on these trails, this is a good place to stop for water, I think. No, it used to be. So I guess don't count on it, but it's there and it might be functional if you're riding through. It isn't today. I think it used to always be on, and then when COVID hit, they shut it off. They might turn it back on eventually. So this is the actual start of the Laurentian Conservation Area trails. And this is another one that's normally super busy, but because it's a long weekend, we're probably not going to run into too many people. This one's fairly safe to go fast on because the trail's really wide. Kind of weird is, I guess it was paved at one point. I think this used to be like a back road, and there were houses back here. And then they like got bought out so that the conservation area could be established. I don't know the full story, but it's something like that. And I think there's still one or two houses at the back that just refuse to sell. And there's a trail later on that kind of goes off to the right. And it says no trespassing or something like that. And I think that's what that is. Whether or not someone still lives there, I'm not sure. So off to the left here, there's a single track that's actually pretty cool. I don't want to do it today because I'm a little crunched for time. I'm losing daylight. But it's pretty fun. It's a little rough at the lowest part. So like, probably don't go there on your gravel bike. Or do, I'm not your mother. Just know that it's going to be bad. And depending on the time of year, it's probably also going to be muddy. Caution bears in area. I've seen a few of them out here over the years. And almost every time, it's been their backside running away from me. I think it was twice. I came across a bear that just didn't care. Both times the bear and I kind of locked eyes. Almost looked like there was a look of like a shrug on the bear. Like he didn't care that I was there. We just kind of kept doing our own thing. Which is fine by me. So this is a pretty cool spot. So that blue post back there was the other side of that single track. And then we got like this dock bridge, which if you're riding this with a group gets a little weird. There's like this compounding effect where the bridge kind of waves up and down because the sections aren't, or there are sections that are just kind of tied together. and the last person to go through is usually on a pretty wavier bridge. So I started from Moonlight, and this trail is going to take us out at the Bioski, which puts us right at the bottom of one of the most difficult paved climbs in town, which has affectionately been called Cardiac by I don't know who. Everybody knows it as that though. I prefer riding it in this direction. It just feels like you're climbing less. I think it's just that the climbs are steeper, so you get them over with sooner, and then the descents are a little bit more extended in this direction. When you're climbing them the other way, it just feels like they take forever because they're really stretched out. This section is pretty fun. It twists just a little bit, just enough to make you worry about your speed. This corner especially. So to the right here is where I think that house is. That's where the no trespassing sign is. Oh, shut it down a bit. There's a sharp corner. Here's one of the spots that I saw a bear bottom, just off to my right. Very big bear too. I'm glad it was running away. So as mentioned earlier in the video, there's Strava segments everywhere. I think there's like, gotta be like 10 of them on this trail, including the entire trail. Starting from here all the way to the exit is another segment, which this is pretty much just a drag race. I'm not really going for it right now. I think I might still have the KOM on this section. And I don't know what I ate that day, but I was flying. And it wasn't even on this bike. I had an old 1998 Trek 7000 hardtail that used to belong to my dad. I kind of converted it to single speed, or not single speed, one by, with like a 10-speed cassette in the back. And I was just ripping that around. Just my fitness was much better than it is now. Oh, cloud of flies. So there's Cardiac on the road. I prefer to go this way. So this is still not easy. You still have to climb stuff, but it's a mountain bike ride instead of a road ride. So now we're going into like the single track trails at Laurentian, which a couple of years ago I did a video on, and there really hasn't been any changes, so that video kind of holds true. So go and check that one out. It's a really good place to ride. So normally from the conservation I would ride the single track. For some reason the entrance was blocked off. I went around. Usually end up on the other side of the track from where I am now. And there's a good bit of gravel trail kind of around here. And what it is the ski trail in the winter. They just put gravel down on it. And it's pretty hilly, so it's actually a really good workout if you live nearby. Just come do a lap or 2 or 10, depending on your fitness level. And straight ahead behind the gate is the Loaches path. Takes you to Loaches Road. So we'll go do a bit of the gravel trail. So this is the easiest bit. It just stays at the bottom of all the hills. There's some pretty big climbs here though. And well, with climbs comes descents. And you can get motoring pretty quick off of those. I think most people would be on their brakes for most of them. I try not to, and it gets pretty sketchy, but it's fun. Add some excitement to, I'm not gonna call that a boring ride, a less exciting than single track ride. Flying through a trail at 30 or 40 kilometers an hour is pretty fun too, so like to get that in. So we're back to the Loaches path here. So this Loaches path is a pretty handy little trail, as it's more of a road. But there's no motorized vehicles that come down here, except for sometimes the campus security drives down. That's the only vehicle I've ever seen. And there's tons of single track that kind of branches off to the left, and there's a bit to the right too. And some of it's pretty technical, like bring your trail bike hard. I wouldn't want to ride it on this bike. So this will take us to almost the end of Loaches Road. Alright, we're on to Loaches. Well, next up we'll go over to the Robinson Park Trail, I think it's called. That one's short, but it's got like a really cool bridge section that kind of goes over a swampy creek area. Alright, so now we're heading to Robinson Park. We just came off of Arnold. I believe this trail also comes in from Nova or Oberon or something like that. It's a short little trail, but it's very nice. To the left there was the other entrance. Now we come to this really nice boardwalk. The plants have really exploded over the past few years. So I hesitate to go very quickly here. I don't really feel like falling off of this. So here there's a creek that comes through. Water gets moving pretty quick at some times of year. And then we're in the tunnel. I love this spot. It's so cool. Oh, a lot of bugs just flying in the trail. I feel like I'm covered in them. I guess that's what I get for coming out this late. Ah! Brings us to some soccer fields. Nice little park here. I remember riding here with a buddy once, and he had a square taper bottom bracket on his crank, and he was pedaling along, and then all of a sudden his entire non-drive side crank arm just fell off right here. And somehow we managed to find the bolt and bolt it back on. We got maybe 100 feet and it fell off again, even though we reefed on the bolt. Good old square tapers. Luckily there's the outside store is not far from here, so we managed to find him a new crank arm. Right from 46 North, after you go for a drink, or 12, you can drop into the Riso Junction Creek Trail. Or Riso. I was just reading the sign. So Junction Creek Trail. The JCT. So again, Strava segment. This section of it is called Stinky Stank because the water filtration plant is just right behind me. And it smells awful right now. Over the years I've given it my all on this one. Had the KOM for a little while. And those darn Sessions boys have taken those. I don't know if I could ever take it back either. They've gone pretty quick. I think my time was like 2 minutes 36 for this section. The pace I'm going right now is probably going to take me 4 minutes. So 46 North, where we started from on this trail, or just before this trail, is on Kelly Lake Road. There's if I was to keep going instead of turning into the trail, just around the corner, there's a trail that actually takes you all the way to Copper Cliff too. I won't be showing it in this video, but I thought it'd be at least worth mentioning. And another one that I won't be doing because it's kind of out of the way from where I am now is probably the easiest one that you'll ever find if you just move to Sudbury, and that's Bell Park. Bell Park's kind of weird though because there's only the one trail that you can ride your bike on, and then everything else there is like walking only. And I wouldn't want to ride on them anyways. There's always so many people there. You'd be dinging the bell constantly. So this one starts from there on Kelly Lake Road. And if you follow this all the way, it kind of goes right downtown. There's a couple of spots where you have to know where to turn just to kind of connect it all. But at the very least, the easiest part of this to follow gets you all the way past Regent, gets you close to Lorne. So you can go from 46 North to the beer store. Although if you go to 46 North, I don't think you need to go to the beer store. Just like the Rotary Park Trail, this is a great way to shortcut through parts of the city. There isn't really a road that gets you from point to point quite so quickly. Obviously if you're driving, you'll be going faster, but if you're riding a bike, this is usually worth riding. So it's a little bit of a jaunt to the next section of the trail, but there are actually signs. Made some nice modifications. I think last year you used to have to hop up this curb all the time. Oh, it's dark in here. This is another really short section, but it's really fun to rip through as it weaves just ever so slightly. Another handy thing is they installed the kind of a crosswalk. It's actually meant for bicycles here too. I never hit the button because I don't like stopping people if I don't have to. So I'm gonna run red. Alright, so now it's getting really dark and I'm riding through the sketchiest part of the trails that I've been on today. Good stuff. So I was on these trails earlier before I got on the Rotary Trail. This is just the trail I went to downtown. I'm just coming from downtown now. It's kind of nice. I never noticed this trail was so illuminated. Doesn't make it any less sketchy at this time though. Now we're going back up the path. We're going to take the Adirondack Trail to get home. So that was a pretty extensive look actually at the gravel trails that run through Sudbury and kind of all around. We went from New Sudbury to Donovan, we went around Ramsey Lake. There's definitely more trails out there, but this was a pretty good look. And these are kind of important trails to getting around Sudbury, especially if you're commuting by bike. And a lot of them are ways to access some of the single track around town. And like I mentioned earlier, they were kind of my introduction to mountain biking in Sudbury. So I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next showcase.